over 50,000 registered voters using the website and our new online app to check and update their address details. Since the online facility was introduced last year, over 100,000 voters have used it to check and update their registration and address details. The online facility at elections.org.za and our app remain available 24 hours a day for registered voters to check and update their address details. The average duration spent online or on the app is just under 6 minutes. It is estimated that approximately 300,000 of voters who visited voting stations are among the 2.8 million voters for whom the Electoral Commission did not have an address going into the weekend. The completed registration forms will now be scanned and all demographic and address details captured over the coming weeks to determine the final impact on this aspect on the voters' roll. In other words, we now will capture these address details that we've received and make an analysis as to the precise number of addresses that we have gained, reducing the shortfall of 2.8 million. Now, in terms of the provincial breakdown of the registration activity, the most populated provinces predictably had the highest participation, with KwaZulu-Natal recording 550,000 interactions with voters, that giving us a 20%, followed by Gauteng with 517,000 voters, giving us 18.71%. And in the third slot comes the Eastern Cape with 460,000 registration activity, giving us a percentage of 16.63%. Weekend registration activity at voting stations saw participation double on Sunday, with 1.8 million recorded interactions compared to about 955,000 on Saturday. This is in line with previous trends during registration weekends. The Electoral Commission would like to express its deepest gratitude to all who assisted in making the weekend such a success. Our thanks especially goes to the following people. First and foremost, the voters themselves for turning out in huge numbers to update the voters' roll and to ensure it can be the foundations for free and fair elections. Secondly, to political parties and their leaders and members who mobilized throughout the country in the lead up to and on the weekend itself to encourage voters to get involved in the registration process. To the media and civil society organizations, non-governmental organizations, faith-based organizations, traditional leaders, and all other stakeholders who promoted and highlighted the campaign and provided key information to voters. Our thanks also goes to the over 73,000 registration staff who ran the registration process with efficiency and effectively. And finally, our appreciation to the various state security and other government agencies which assisted in ensuring a safe and peaceful process. The Electoral Commission believes that such a high turnout with more than a year until the next general elections bodes extremely well for participation in next year's elections and the future of electoral democracy in our country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief Electoral Officer. As per usual, I'm going to open the floor for questions, for clarification and any other issue. I'm going to start this side of the room.
My name is Hajra Marji. I'm from Power 987. You said elections are over a year away. Does that mean there's a possibility of will the IEC be ready in April for an election? Is there any possibility legislation that you have to get the numbers of eligible voters registered in Gauteng, are there any other interventions that you are planning? What is the issue in Gauteng? Is it because of high migration patterns to the province, or what? And finally, Atul Gupta being on the voters roll, does that not question the legitimacy of your entire voters roll, since he is not a citizen?
No, perhaps we should deal with that last one very quickly.
Okay.
You are on the voters roll if you are a citizen. So he is a citizen and therefore on the voters roll. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions before we clarify? Okay.
Anton Meyer from Pretoria. Mr. Mabolo, if you are unable to capture all these addresses by next year, April, when we have the elections, does that mean that we would not be able to go ahead with the elections? What would happen if you're not unable to capture all the addresses? Thank you.
Okay.
Alrighty, let's start with the earlier two questions, CEO.
Yeah, I think I want Granville to assist me. You know, when you're a CEO, you need assistance.
Can you please help me with the wiring? Thank you. Good?
Yes, good. With regard to the timing of the election, the term of the national and the provincial legislatures is 5 years, and that 5 years will expire in May next year. So that is where our planning is focused. However, furthermore, the Constitution also says that the election must take place within 90 days of the expiry of that term, and the date for the election is determined by the President. So with regard, as far as the IEC is concerned, we have to be ready at the very earliest of the expiry of the 5-year term. That is what all our plans are obviously aimed at. With regard to Gauteng, you are quite right that Gauteng has very high migration patterns. It is, you will have noticed that whilst at some stage KwaZulu-Natal was the most densely populated province, they have been overtaken by Gauteng, and it's also highly fluid. So it's a difficult audience to capture at any specific time. Its growth is at a phenomenal rate, and we've also seen challenges, not just here with the elections and the voters' roll, but also elsewhere as far as government is concerned. But it will definitely be a focus area for us, obviously going forward in increasing and balancing the election. The one positive about Gauteng is that we have 2 other platforms that should be very popular because of the fact that we have a wide coverage of broadband. So voters who have moved and hopefully they have registered elsewhere and are into the province and just increasing the base, that they would now have an opportunity from now onwards to update and amend their address details so that they can now also move themselves into the Gauteng province. So that's a continuous process, and as the CEO has mentioned, it is a 24-hour process, the online as well as the app, which is in the Google Play Store as well as the Apple App Store, which can be downloaded, and it's really a simple process to download and then to amend your address details. But we believe that a lot of that people are probably already registered, but they are just not registered in the correct province.
We'll get the CEO to deal with one more question on the opportunities available for voters.
The intention of the Electoral Commission is to ensure that by the June deadline, we have all 2.8 million missing addresses. And as you have seen over the weekend, we really tried to ensure that we get the message out to those voters for whom we don't have addresses. On Friday morning, if not on Thursday evening, we sent 2.2 million SMSs to those voters to say, do visit your voting station. Now, if by the time we go to the June deadline and we still have people without addresses, we hope that will be a very minimal percentage. We'll then have to hear what the court will advise us to do in respect of those voters. But our inclination as an institution is anchored on the understanding that we are a facilitator of people's participation in the electoral process. And to that extent, would want everybody who took the trouble to register to be afforded the opportunity to vote. But between now and the June deadline, we'll spare no effort to ensure that we make contact with those people and get as many of their addresses as possible.
All right. Let me take another round of questions before we close. Yes, ma'am.
Natasha from the Business Day. I have two questions. The first is around Commissioner Terry Tsalani. I understand that his term expires some 5 months before the election. I just wanted to get a sense of when the process will commence. I know that there's quite an intensive process both outside and inside the IEC. And then the second question is around your IT systems. The IT systems that you've put in place, are they new? And who was the company who installed those for you? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let me check Anton SEO before you answer.
I've got another question about these voters without any addresses on the voters roll. Do you have an idea where most of them are? You don't have the address, but surely you must have a district or a province. And will you intensify? You said you will intensify and you spare no effort to get to those voters, but will that include driving out to these people and going door to door to ask them to update their addresses?
Okay. Zikona, I saw your hand as well. Okay.
I'm worried that you described it because it's success, but were there any hiccups? I saw that you were one of the stations open. Can you just give us more details as to the expert?
Okay.
I want to find out, with regards to the people who are staying in public settlements, have there been any issues with that to verify their address?
Okay, thank you very much. There are 3 commissioners whose term will come to an end in the course of this year. The first of which is Judge Makanya. His term will come to an end at the end of May. And then 2 other commissioners, Commissioner Tsalani as well as Commissioner Finger. The process to start the recruitment of new commissioners or the reappointment of the present commissioners is driven by the Chief Justice. As you know, he has to convene a panel consisting of the Public Protector, Chairperson of the Human Rights Commission, as well as the Chairperson of the Gender Commission. They will then do the interviews and do a shortlist which will be submitted to Parliament. Parliament will process those names and eventually make a recommendation to the President for appointment. So it's not a matter on which we as an institution have a lot of choice about. It's a matter that is driven by those institutions under the leadership of the Chief Justice. Now, as regards our IT systems, no, our IT systems are not new. We need to refresh them though, so that they can be maintained by the relevant providers. we need to change the software. But the essential architecture of our network remains the same. We just need to upgrade so that we can be more secure and the like. And we have panels of IT firms that are helping us with the number of IT work. For instance, we have a panel on GIS. We have a general IT panel. We also have a sub-panel. Those shortlisted companies on the panel are available for everyone to see. They've been appointed following a procurement process which is prescribed in terms of both the Treasury prescripts as well as our internal procurement policy. So there is no new total architecture in our IT environment. We just need to refresh, as is the case in every environment, that from time to time you need to refresh your systems. The issue of the people for whom we do not have addresses, we know where those people are in relation to VD, ward, and municipality. So we can clearly identify which VDs are affected, which wards are they, and in which municipalities are they. Yes, we do plan to have special measures, and you've announced some of them. Door to door,
Yeah.
we've tried that, and we'll continue to try that going forward. To the extent that it can assist us, it will be looked at. The hiccups. I think it's important that we contextualize that properly, because over the 2 days, it was less than 100 voting stations that were affected by this. Now, if you take that as a percentage of the 22,600 odd voting stations, it's a very, I don't want to say insignificant, but it's a very small proportion of the total voting stations across the country. The issue is that communities take the view that a registration weekend offers them a unique opportunity to escalate their protests, their grievances, because of its high-profile nature. Now, whether that is correct or not, it's a matter of decision-making by different people. There were issues in, for instance, Ward 21, Bushbuck Ridge. It involved 5 voting stations. We also spoke about Ward 5 in Ekurhuleni, in Ngala section, Katlehong. And then 1 voting station in Tabanchu, in the Free State, in the Mangaung municipality. And a few disruptions in and around Makaza in the Western Cape. So if you take those cumulatively, they went major, hence the level of success we are reporting here. Of course, would have loved to have been operational, fully operational at all voting stations, but sometimes what you desire and what really obtains are 2 different things in life. And then the informal settlements, I think we did indicate on previous occasions that we do have a form. It's called a REC1AS. It's an affirmed statement where we take a description of where the person lives. For instance, excuse me, I live in this informal settlement next to Siabuswa Crèche, or next to a church, a red painted church, and so on. So this is necessary so that we can at least locate the person in the correct voting district.
Right.
I think.
Thank you so much. All right. Okay.
Sorry, it's a very short question. Sorry, Lila from SABC Radio News. Do you know how many of those informal settlement registrations did you get over the weekend?
We still have to analyze. We have to scan all these forms and then analyze how many affirm statements we've received in relation, or rather as against your conventional addresses. So there's still a bit of an analysis that will be required.
Looks like we've covered all the questions. Once more, thank you so much for your support after a very, very successful weekend. With definitely your support, I saw most of you on the road covering various voting stations. As we continue with the project, thank you so much for supporting the Electoral Commission.
Thank you.
This
At least,
language, okay.
at least the terrorist issue did not come.
Wait, yeah,
Don't move, see.
another language.
I saw.
Yeah, sure.
Wait,
Give it to your figures.
Eh?
Give to your figures as well.
Yeah, no, I will.
Because the figures don't change.
So can you just sum up how did this weekend go, and like just give me the numbers in another language? What other language do you speak?
Speaks its one.
But you want it as well, okay. Yeah, so it's for TV as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Am I out of your shot? Yeah.
Successful re itumetse jaaka commission e kemetseng ya ditlhopho gore re bone batho ba ka nna 2.7 million ba tla go tla go ikwadisa ko di voting stationeng. 1.3 million ya batho bao ba ne ba ikwadisa mo di voting districts se leng gore ba ne ba ntse ba ikwadisitse mo go tsone. 880,000 ke batho ba leng gore ba ne ba ikwadisa mo di voting districts tse dintšhwa ke batho ba leng gore ba ne ba fuduga from address ne rileng ko ne ba tshela gone ba tla yaanong ba ikwadisa mo addresseng e ntšhwa mo e leng gore ba nna gone yaanong. Sa bofelo re bone batlhophi ba ka nna 490,000 ba ne ba ikwadisa la ntlha go nna mo lenaneng la batlhophi. Re bone province ya KwaZulu Natal e leng yona e itemogetseng boikwadiso jo bontsi go feta di province tso tsotlhe be latela ke province ya Gauteng, and then mo nomorong ya boraro go tlile province ya Limpopo. Jaanong voters roll ka kakaretso e na le batlhophi ba ka nna 26.2 million ba leng gore ba ikwadisitse. Se ke 75% ya batho botlhe ba leng gore ba eligible go ka tsa karolo mo ditlhophong. Yaanong ga re le ba voters roll ka kakaretso, province ya Eastern Cape e na le batho ba ba ikwadisitseng ba bantsi go gaisa botlhe mo go gaisa di province tsotlhe mo Africa Borwa, gonne batho ba ikwadisitseng mo provinceng ya Eastern Cape ke 87%. Ebe ba latelwa ke province ya Free State ka 82%. And then mo boemong ba boraro ke di province tse di latelang ka 79%, KwaZulu Natal, Limpopo le Northern Province. Province e leng gore boikwadiso jwa bona bo ko tlase ke province ya Gauteng e na le 67.3%. Re bone batho ba bantsi ba dirisa our app e leng gore e mo websiteng le leng gore re fitlhela mo di mobile devices. Batho ba ka nna kgolo tse kgolo ba ikwadisitse ba change di address tsa bona ba dirisa our online app. So re itumetse gonne o ka dirisa this online app le ga o le ko gae 24 hours a day. Ga o tlhokege gore o ye ko di ofising tsa IEC go dirisa mobile app ya rona. Yaanong batho ba leng gore ba ne ba sena di address pele ga mafela pele ga weekend re tswa mo go yona re estimate gore e ka nna batho ba nna dikete tse 300,000 ba leng gore re bona e ka re tshotse yanong di-address tsa bona tse leng gore ba ne ba sena tsona pelo ga tshimologo ya mafelo a beke ke tsona tseo ba gaetsho ke a leboga. It's the people for whom we estimate, people that we never had their addresses, that we now may have their address.
Well, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, girl. Second, yes, love. No, it's non-stop. It's until it's a facility that
Until they proclaim the elections next year.
before they go, one of them tells about that.
Yeah.
Until we proclaim elections. For 2019. When you can- Yes, you go, but really,
If we all,
yeah. Yes. Sometimes it's party for the
He got it already. He got it. He got it.
yeah, we are very, very happy with the outcome and the manner in which the legislation
Feeling my way.